Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. We hear from a counterterrorism expert who says Israel's goal is still to wipe out the terrorist organization Hamas. Lethbridge Conservative MP Rachel Thomas speaks out after the Liberals and Bloc voted down a Tory bill that would have exempted farmers from the carbon tax. And we hear from Alberta lawyer Everett Chipiuk, who has an update on the trial involving Freedom Convoy organizers Tamara Leach and Chris Barber.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. The terrorist group Hamas says it released 2 more Israeli hostages today, and Israel was expected to release more Palestinian prisoners as the ceasefire in Gaza continues. Any further renewal of the now 7-day truce, however, could prove tough since Hamas is expected to set a higher price for many of the remaining hostages. Earlier today, at least 3 people were killed when 2 Palestinian brothers opened fire on people waiting for buses along a main highway entering Jerusalem. Hamas claimed responsibility, calling it retaliation for the alleged killing of women and children in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. Aaron Cohen is an Israeli special operations veteran and a counterterrorism expert. He says the resolve by the IDF remains strong with the goal of wiping out or finishing off Hamas. He made the comment on TBN's Centerpoint program.
The logo on the Hamas bandana, famously worn during the October 7th massacre, says in Arabic, Hat al-Mut, which literally translated means till the death. When you're dealing with an organization that is committed and honors dying to be able to further its cause, to kill innocents, take hostages, rape women, kill children, behead them, burn them. There's only one way to deal with a group like this, and this isn't Fatah. It's none of the other offshoots that Israel's been at war with for years. Its closest counterpart would be ISIS. In fact, Hamas is ISIS. When you're dealing with a group like that, the only way to be able to effectively conduct operations against a group like Hamas is a total destruction of the organization, both physically and ideologically.
Henry Kissinger, a polarizing statesman who helped shape U.S. foreign policy in the Vietnam War era, has died. He was 100 years old. Kissinger, who won a Nobel Peace Prize, was referred to as a diplomatic powerhouse after serving under 2 U.S. presidents, including Richard Nixon. Israel's President Isaac Herzog spoke about the passing of Kissinger and how Israel held a very special place in his heart.
Dr. Henry Kissinger, who has left us peacefully tonight. We are big admirers of Henry Kissinger, who laid down the foundations of so many great decisions of his and processes which he has led, which has brought results that we feel until today, peaceful results. He laid the cornerstone of the peace agreement, which were later signed with Egypt. In our last conversation, he ended the call by saying, Mr. President, please know I've always loved and admired and supported the state of Israel. And so I've always felt his love and compassion for Israel and his belief in the Jewish state.
Henry Kissinger passed away at his home in Connecticut. The amendment of a conservative bill that is trying to make life a little bit more affordable for Canadians was voted down. The Liberals and Bloc voted against Bill C-234, which would exempt farmers from paying the carbon tax on propane and natural gas, gases which are used for heating or cooling barns and drying grains. Lethbridge Conservative MP Rachel Thomas says it is very sad that certain MPs want to delay the bill as the carbon tax continues to drive up the cost of food for Canadians.
At the end of the day, this motion wasn't successful. Because they garnered the support of the Bloc as well, and they were able to shut it down. Bill C-234 is still in the Senate, and we'll see how they handle it. We're still hopeful that the senators will exercise common sense and their own independence and make a decision on behalf of the Canadian people. Because when farmers don't have the carbon tax, the prices of food come down. And when the prices on food come down, Canadians all benefit.
David Bishop is the director of the Alberta Wheat Commission and a grain farmer out by Barron's. He says the federal carbon tax continues to hurt many in our agricultural community.
It's just the fact that anybody where you need to dry grain there's no alternative to natural gas or propane. That's all you can use to dry. And the carbon tax is, pretty tough to swallow because it's a large percentage of that cost now. On the livestock animal side, if you have a barn that you have to heat, yeah, it's a big expense. So the bill was designed in my mind, and I think in everybody else's mind, was to compensate the producer for drying grain or having livestock in barns, because we can't pass that on. Like most industries, if there's a carbon tax, it's passed on to whoever the end user is. In agriculture, we can't do that.
Preserving Alberta's natural resources is a big part of the work that Alberta Conservation Association helps with. President Todd Zimmerling says they've changed their approach in order to really create positive relationships with landowners here in our province.
Traditionally, we've come out of school trained as biologists, knowing what has to be done, knowing this is the right thing to do. And then we go to a landowner and say, this is what you're doing wrong. And, as you might expect, that didn't go over all that well, right? Here we've got a rancher who's been on the land for who knows how many years, several generations. And here somebody, shows up and says, you're doing all this wrong. So we've tried really hard to make sure we've changed that approach and sit down with the ranching community and say, okay, how can we help? What can we do differently to help you out? And the reality is we've got over 600,000 acres of land now in southern Alberta that we are working with landowners on to improve habitat and help them improve their ranching operations as well.
Make sure you catch more of that insightful interview with Todd Zimmerling from the Alberta Conservation Association and BCN's Michael Clausen coming up later in our program. Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre blasted the Trudeau government on its economic record. This follows a report from Stats Canada, which says our economy contracted by more than 1%.
After 8 years, we've entered the next phase of this Prime Minister's economic misery. We've seen just inflation, and today we learn Canada's in a state of stagflation, as our economy shrunk by 1.1% in the most recent quarter, while the American economy boomed at 5%. Wow. Mr. Speaker, this is the result of high taxes, big deficits, and crippling red tape. At the same time as the prices rise for Canadians, their wages are falling down. The economy is now smaller than it was on a per capita basis 5 years ago. Why is it that the American economy is roaring while this Prime Minister's economy is snoring?
Despite the trite rhymes coming from the other side of the House, I'd like to remind everybody in this House that we actually have an economic plan, unlike the opposition. Our GDP today, Mr. Speaker, is at 4.1% above pre-pandemic levels. That is higher than Italy, the European Union, France, and Germany, Mr. Speaker, and the IMF projects that Canada will have the highest economic growth in the G7 in 2024. Mr. Speaker, that's an economic plan at work.
It's a lot of passion. Well, it was a cloudy and cooler day today in Lethbridge. Jeanette Roche is now with a quick peek at the forecast. Jeanette, no snow in the forecast, so still a good night for a barbecue. That is, as long as you have some glow-in-the-dark utensils.
Well, yeah, no kidding, Hal, particularly since the sun goes down in the afternoon these days, like literally 4 o'clock hour, and there it goes. The sun's gone already. So, but yes, no snow in the forecast. And yeah, we have been in that seasonal range. Actually, Lethbridge Airport and Raymond earlier today were the hot spot in the province, sitting at 1.2 degree. We did actually get a little tiny bit higher than our expected high tomorrow into Friday as well. We are looking at that expected high of 2 degrees. It could be a little bit lower. Last I checked, the expected high was only -1. So we will see how that plays out on Friday. After that, though, we are looking at much warmer temperatures as we get into next week. We just have to get through Friday. And by the way, the wind gusting up to 60 kilometers per hour could feel like a wind chill of -12 as well. But I'll be back later in the show to give you the good news about the plus temperatures coming up next week.
Great, looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Jeanette. The Crown is expected to lay out its case why evidence against one protest leader of last year's Freedom Convoy should apply to the other. Tamara Leach and Chris Barber are co-accused for their role in the 2022 demonstration that blocked streets around Parliament Hill for weeks, protesting COVID-19 public health restrictions. Both defense lawyers have opposed the co-conspirators' allegation and say that planning a protest together is not inherently illegal. Eva Chipyuk is an Alberta lawyer with Empowered Canadians and a friend of Tamara Lich, one of the co-accused, who's on trial right now for her role in the Freedom Convoy last year. She joins us now from Edmonton. Eva, what are your thoughts so far with the trial, which is now on, what, day 30?
Really hard to believe that it's still going on, and the quality of the evidence that the Crown has presented to date, I think, is really troubling to see what the Crown was trying to bring forward as evidence to put two people in jail for possibly 10 years.
Do you feel that the Crown wants to make an example of both Medicine Hat's Tamara Lich and Swift Current's Chris Barber?
I think I'd have to agree, because there's not any other explanation for the lengths that the Crown has gone to in this case. I've said this time and time again, this seems to be more of an issue of mismanagement on the level of the city and the police in administering the protest in a better manner. And as a result, they wanted to blame someone or accuse someone, and that's what this trial looks like to me.
Thanks so much for your time today, Eva. That was Eva Chipyuk, lawyer with Empowered Canadians, joining us from Edmonton. The Manitoba government is creating a new position to represent Southern Manitoba. The province is establishing a Southern Manitoba regional cabinet position based in the Pembina Valley. Brandon Burley, who's the former Morden mayor, will be taking on the role. Burley is to serve as liaison between the government and families, businesses, and organizations in Southern Manitoba. Canada's federal mental health minister announced the launch of a new 3-digit suicide prevention helpline. The 988 service will provide free mental health and suicide prevention support across the country.
12 people die by suicide each and every day in this country, and that is 12 too many. There's 12 too many families with broken hearts, 12 too many communities who grieve each and every day. Each loss is tragic, and I know I've said this many times in recent weeks. I will say it again and again and again. Every person lost to suicide leaves behind a grief-stricken family, friends, and loved ones who struggle to pick up the pieces, and they're shattered with the loss. It's deeply personal to so many of us, not just in this room, but across the country, because we know that losing someone to suicide sticks with you throughout your life. And I want families, friends, and loved ones to know we see you, we're here for you, and we embrace you. Every person in Canada deserves access to crisis support services when and where they need it, and we are providing that lifeline.
A family in Calgary has made a multi-million-dollar gift to support cancer immunotherapy research and treatment. The $25 million donation to the Own Cancer campaign is to help support the Riddell Centre for Cancer Immunotherapy at the U of C's Cummings School of Medicine, the Alberta Children's Hospital, and the Arthur J.E. Child Comprehensive Cancer Centre. Sue Riddell says her family is happy to provide the support to help make Calgary home of some of the best cancer research and care in the world. Officials say the funding will help reduce the burden of cancer in kids and adults by helping to increase survival rates through effective cell and immune therapies for cancer. An annual tradition has begun once again here in Lethbridge, the Nikki-Yuko Japanese Gardens Winter Light Festival. Organizers say they installed more than 170,000 lights this year, including 3 lit tunnels throughout the garden. They will also have a few other light displays and some Japanese lanterns. Last year, the Winter Light Festival brought in around 31,000 visitors, and organizers are hoping to top that number this year. The festival will run throughout the month of December, each Thursday to Sunday. In January, it'll run Thursday through Saturday, and February only on Fridays and Saturdays. The Lethbridge Hurricanes are eagerly anticipating one of their special games this season. December 1st will be the 27th annual Two-Contenti Toss as the Canes face off against the Saskatoon Blades. Fans attending can bring some stuffed animals and toques and will be given an opportunity to donate them by tossing them onto the ice. Marketing coordinator for the Hurricanes, Kathy Hong, says the yearly event is something the fans, staff, and players always look forward to.
It means a lot to us. It's a big night for us too. Our players love it, our staff love it. We love seeing the community get together, supporting each other. It's a really fun game for us. For us, we're really happy to be able to provide an opportunity for our fans to help give back to the community in a different way.
Hong adds that there are many different charitable organizations that receive the donated proceeds from this event.
We support 20 organizations in Lethbridge and our surrounding areas. The big one, of course, is the hospital, the CRH Foundation. We also donate to Streets Alive, Lethbridge Interfaith and Tabor Food Banks. We're out with the Blood Reserve, so Blood Tribe Police and Emergency Services, as well as the Nappy Friendship Society out in Pincher Creek, and a ton of other ones too.
If you'd like to donate, you're asked to wrap up your stuffed animals and toques in individual plastic bags, clear plastic bags, for health and sanitary reasons. Now, if you're looking to adopt a puppy dog, the Lethbridge Animal Shelter has plenty of them. And soon there will be more space to interact with and play with the canines who are awaiting adoption. This week, Lethbridge City Council unanimously approved funding up to $30,000 to build an enclosed 1,100 square meter dog run on the animal shelter property. Community Animal Services Director Skylar Plurd says an enclosed dog run will eliminate having to leash the dogs when going outside. He says it will also improve the shelter's ability to provide exercise for the dogs that are in their care.
It's going to provide very valuable enrichment activities for those dogs, which will in turn make them more adoptable. And that's what I think we're most excited about. And it comes at a good time where we are struggling in getting these dogs adopted. A lot of them do have behavioral issues that might be less attractive to potential families. And a lot of those behavioral issues come simply from a lack of exercise and stimulation in whatever environment they were in before they came to us. And it's hard to work through that with these dogs with the resources we had currently. And so this is a huge asset to us.
Beautiful dogs. Plurd says more than 330 dogs came through the shelter last year and he expects 2023 will look pretty much the same. Hyperbaric chambers, you may have heard of them. They're used to help athletes who've been injured to heal a lot quicker. Brian and Cassandra Meyerhofer, owners of the Oxygen House here in Lethbridge and Raymond, explain what it's like to use a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. They discuss the benefits of this kind of therapy and how it actually works.
So it's a chamber that you crawl into, and you breathe 95% oxygen through a nose piece, and then we increase the pressure to 1.3 atmospheres. Now, 1.3 atmospheres is like being 10 feet underwater. So you do have to pop your ears as you go along. What that increased pressure does is it allows the gas, oxygen, to dissolve into your blood and your blood plasma. Now, blood plasma can go in parts of your body that red blood cells can't fit. So it also goes into your other fluids as well, like cerebral spinal fluid and your other fluids as well. So it's flooding your body with oxygen, oxygen is like energy to your body. And then your body starts fixing up the place.
Sounds good. Make sure you catch the full interview with Brian and Cassandra from the Oxygen House and BCN's Jeanette Rocher coming up later in our broadcast. Well, it was mostly cloudy today in Lethbridge and we hovered right around the freezing mark, but fortunately things should be warming up a little. A full look at the weather pictures coming up. Well, it was a mostly cloudy day in the Windy City today, but not too bad for this time of year considering we have no snow. Jeanette Rocher is now with a look at the long-range forecast. Jeanette, it's almost December and still no snow in sight?
I know, I love it, and I'm actually fine with having a green or brown Christmas this year. And who knows, it could happen because check out these temperatures coming at us next week. So as we dip down a little bit as we get into the weekend, they're looking at a high of 2 degrees, up to 4 on Saturday, 5 degrees on Sunday. That's still above seasonal. And then look what happens. We're getting into double digits as we get into next week. High of 10 degrees on Monday. Could see some high teen temperatures by Tuesday. We're looking at 18 degrees for a possibility on Tuesday next week, and then back to 10 degrees on Wednesday. And that's looking like our first week of December. Whoa, what's going on? Average high for this time of year, 1 degree. We're gonna be way above that. Average low, -10. 17, that was our high temperature on this day back in 1969. Will we have a record breaker next week? Possibly. We'll have to wait and see. -28 was the record low. That happened back in 1975. Sun rose this morning at 8:05. Sunset this afternoon. I have to say afternoon at 4:34 p.m. We're looking at 8 hours, 29 minutes of daylight, 2 minutes shorter than yesterday. On the west coast tomorrow, a little bit of a rainy one. We are seeing 40% chance of showers in Victoria, high of 6 degrees, 30 to 50 winds. Winds lightening up though by around noon. 6 degrees as well in Vancouver, looking at a 60% chance of showers. Mainly sunny skies in Edmonton, 15 wind, a high of -1. 0 for the high in Calgary tomorrow, looking at mainly cloudy and 20 to 40 winds there. In Saskatoon, mainly sunny one as well, -4 for a high, -6 for a high in Regina with mainly cloudy skies. Both of those cities looking at wind chill values tomorrow of -22. So yeah, brace for that, particularly earlier on in the day. -2 for a high in Winnipeg, looking at a 30% chance of flurries in the morning. As we get to the central part of the country, are also looking at a lot of precipitation. So in Toronto, we're seeing a 40% chance of, we're looking at periods of rain or wet flurries, and then later in the day, periods of drizzle. So 5 degrees for a high there, 6 degrees for a high in Ottawa. Ottawa seeing 40% chance of showers or drizzle. Montreal looking at a 30% chance of showers, 8 degrees for a high there. As we get into Atlantic Canada, Fredericton, not as much with the precipitation. Actually, they're looking at mainly sunny skies. Could see a little bit of cloud coverage earlier on in the day and then clearing up. 9 degrees for a high there. Halifax looking at cloudy then clearing. 8 degrees for high, 8 for a high as well in Charlottetown. Charlottetown looking at 30% chance of early morning showers. And then St. John's, mix of sun and cloud, could see a high of 3 degrees rather, and 20 to 40 winds. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
Stats Canada says the economy contracted 1.1% on an annualized basis in the third quarter, a decrease in international exports and slower inventory accumulation by businesses were partially offset by increases in government spending and housing investment. The agency also revised its reading for real gross domestic product in the second quarter. It says the economy didn't shrink but grew by 1.4% on an annualized basis. Federal ministers offered an update on Canadian Armed Forces equipment. Government officials announced that Boeing is the company of choice to replace the military's aging patrol planes in a multi-billion-dollar deal. The Treasury Board rubber-stamped the purchase of at least 14 P-8A Poseidon surveillance aircraft to replace the nearly 50-year-old CP-140 Auroras. The deal will cost taxpayers about $10 billion. The planes are expected to be delivered in 2026 and 2027. Many of Canada's big banks reported some big profits in the fourth quarter. You can include the Royal Bank and CIBC. The Royal Bank of Canada reported a profit of $4.13 billion. That's up from $3.88 billion last year. CIBC, meanwhile, reported a fourth quarter profit of $1.48 billion. That's compared to $1.19 billion from a year earlier. The bank also upped its quarterly dividend from 87 to 90 cents per share. Revenue also went up, totaling $5.8 billion for Q4, compared with nearly $5.4 billion a year earlier. Revenue for the Royal Bank totaled a bit more than $13 billion in the fourth quarter. That's up from $12.6 billion in the same quarter last year. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 120 points on the day to finish at 20,236. The Dow was up 520 points to 35,950. The S&P 500 was up 17 on the day to 4567, and the Nasdaq was down 32 points to 14,226. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down $1.90 to $75.96 US per barrel. Natural gas was even on the day at $2.80 US. Gold was up 24 cents to $2,036.64 US an ounce, and silver was even at $25.27 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.98 per bushel, barley's at $6.83, canola's at $15.85, and corn is at $8.07 per bushel. Live cattle were down $1.03 to $170.88. Feeder cattle January contract was down $2.25 to $219.95, and lean hogs were down 20 cents to 68.78. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 73.73 US. Recapping one of our top stories, The terrorist group Hamas says it released 2 more Israeli hostages today, and Israel was expected to release more Palestinian prisoners as the ceasefire in Gaza continues. Any further renewal of the now 7-day truce, however, could prove tough since Hamas is expected to set a higher price for many of the remaining hostages. Alberta faces a number of challenges when it comes to protecting our natural resources. Todd Zimmerling, president of the Alberta Conservation Association, will share details with us shortly. Listen, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to drop us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. And if you missed any of today's local stories, visit our website, bridgecitynews.ca.
Here's today's Bridge City News Community Calendar. Lethbridge's Christmas Hope campaign has begun, and there's plenty of opportunities throughout the month of December to spread the holiday spirit by giving to those who are less fortunate. The annual Toy Mountain at Center Village Mall goes until December 22nd. Drop off new unwrapped toys like stuffed animals, toy trucks, baby dolls, and anything fun that brings a smile to a child's face. Discover unique finds for all the people on your Christmas list at the Lethbridge Handmade Market on Saturday, December 2nd at the Agri-Food Hub and Trade Center's UFA Hall. Over 115 handmade artisans will be on hand to show their various crafts, art, jewelry, and all kinds of things. The market opens at 9 a.m. with a $7 admission. Kids 14 and under enter for free. Do you have a heart to serve our community? Streets Alive Mission is looking for volunteers to help make sandwiches, sort incoming donations, assist with Foot Friday, and many other opportunities to serve, receive training, and to provide support for this important cause of bringing hope to the hopeless. Visit streetsalive.ca to fill out their volunteer application or call 403-320-1159. And that's today's Bridge City News Community Calendar.
Well, with the hunting season coming to an end, conservation of wildlife in Alberta has never been more important. Todd Zimmerling is the president of the Alberta Conservation Association, which engages local communities in conservation efforts and fosters a sense of ownership, empowering residents to contribute to the protection of their ecosystem. Todd Zimmerling is joining us today from Sherwood Park, Alberta. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here and great to talk about all things outdoors and hunting. Let's start off with, how is your hunting season going so far this year?
Oh, it's been great. Fall is my favorite time of year. My family and I are out hunting as much as possible, basically from September 1 to this year it'll be to mid-December because we have some late season draws. So it's been a really good season for us.
That's great. And I'm sure, I know from my neighbors, and you and I were just talking a little bit before the interview started, I was going to say, I'm sure that with the cost of food and groceries, is there an increase in people maybe contacting your organization about getting into hunting?
We've certainly seen an increase over the last probably 5-6 years of people interested in getting into hunting. I guess I don't want to leave anybody with the impression that it is cheaper meat to go hunting on your own. I mean, it can be if you get lucky and then, you walk out the first day and you get what you're looking for. But most people really are interested in it from more of a food security point of view. They're sure of where the animal came from. They're sure it has been ethically harvested. They feel more connected as to where their meat is coming from. So that's really what we've seen much more of, I guess, be more that field to table kind of concept than people wanting to do that on their own. And so we've certainly seen an uptick in a number of people doing that. And interestingly, we've seen sort of a shift in the type of people that are interested in getting hunting. So traditionally it would have been sort of something that's passed down. I learned it from my dad, so I'll teach my son or daughter and that sort of thing. And now we're seeing more and more sort of young adults who maybe have had no contact with that in the past. They themselves want to get into that and are looking for mentors to help them figure out how do they get to harvest their own food.
Yeah, that actually is an excellent point, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, because while society's values might be changing, it's actually bringing people in to understand why they actually want to take, let's say, authority or dominion, so to speak, over their own personal lives. Can you talk about what hunting can do for a family?
Well, I can certainly talk about my own personal experiences. You know, it basically provides something that we all can do together, and it you know, from a young age, my kids were involved. They got a son and a daughter. They're both adults now, 25 and 26. But you know, they were out with my wife and I hunting from a very young age. As soon as they were able to join us, and it's just an experience that you can share together. And for a non-hunter, it's difficult to explain how exciting and I guess fun it is to take a young kid out and sit in a field at sunrise and watch that sun come up, and maybe see a deer come up, or maybe you're hunting geese and see that first flight of geese come over. But just sitting there with your kid, your family, and experiencing stuff like that, that's not something the average person gets to see and experience. And it's something you remember forever. And then, you know, throughout your time, you get a lot of memories that, you know, we still remember. Oh, remember that time that Mom shot that great big moose way back in the bush, and it took us all day to get it out of there. And, you know, it was a lot of hard work and everything like that. But we have that memory forever now. So it really, I think, gives you a good opportunity to bond with family and friends when you do things like that. And then, of course, on the food side of it, like I said earlier, it you know where your food's coming from. You have the opportunity to process it from, you know, the time it's standing there looking at you to the time you put it on your plate. You know where it's come from and how it's been dealt with the whole way. So it gives you a good feeling to know that you were able to provide that food and put it on your table. And I tell you, from a young person's point of view, I don't think I've ever seen a bigger smile on one of my kids' faces when they knew they brought this goose to the table. They were the one that harvested this goose out of the field and brought it, and now we're eating the food that they harvested. So that's, you know, it's a huge accomplishment that a young person can feel for doing something like that.
I completely agree. We grew up on a farm, or my family grew up on a farm, and so my parents weren't hunters because we had our herds in flocks. But the knowledge that comes at that young point in time of your life, where you're actually seeing an animal harvested and you're participating in that, and then you're seeing it going onto your plate at the table, it completely changes your respect for the animal and for conserving animals and for the amount of work and what it actually takes for survival. Can you talk a little bit about those new hunters who are coming into this activity or this lifestyle and how they're looking for mentors? Can you talk a little bit about what they need or the type of information that they're looking to get?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a wide range of questions that come to us, but I mean, most people we find come to us looking, they're interested, they're not sure if they want to do it or not. They're interested, they think they might want to get into hunting. In a lot of cases, they're not sure if they can do it because, I mean, in the end, you're harvesting an animal, you're taking a life, and that's something, like you said, you learn that respect for the animal because you're doing it. But for a lot of people who've never done it before, it's not an easy decision to do it first, for sure. It's something you got to used to. So they need sort of to talk to people about that and how it's okay to have the feelings you will have when you harvest your first animal. That's fine. But then there's also the people, okay, now that I've done it, now the scary part, the actual harvesting animal is easy. It's now what do I do? Like if you've shot something, let's say like a moose or a deer, how do I deal with this now? How do I get it out of here? How do I get it to my plate? So we've got a harvest your own website that provides a bunch of basic information for people to get started to look at. Do I want to get into this? What would it take? Where are the resources? And of course, there are lots of resources out there online that people can take a look at. We point them to the Alberta Hunter Education Instructors Association, which their job is to train hunters and give them the education they need, and they have all kinds of mentoring programs for them and that sort of thing. The Alberta Fish and Game Association has lots of mentoring programs. What we found is we are lacking mentors. That's one of the problems we have in the province. So we got lots of people very interested, but of course not enough mentors to them, because one time is great, you get people interested, but most people need 2, 3, 4 times before you're really comfortable to want to go do something like this on your own. So it's getting more mentors and trying to develop a relationship between a mentor and a mentee so that they have a longer term relationship. And maybe they're fine for a year, but then something comes up, they got a question. Well, who can I ask? Well, I know this person who is a seasoned hunter. I'll ask that person as to what I should do or where I should go and handle the situation. So we try to try to see if we can get those people to mentors who can develop relationships as opposed to just one-off hunting experiences.
Right. Yeah, and it's building that community of hunters and those who really have that passion and desire to care for the wildlands and the animals around us. Could you talk a little bit about the conservation initiatives in Alberta and even their impact on those wildlands, the environment, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, we're involved in a huge number of different types of initiatives going on across Alberta. You know, we're everything from dealing with Alberta native trout recovery. So we're working with the government of Alberta and a number of different partners to work on West Slope cutthroat and bull trout, and those in the streams, a lot of them down in the southeast part of the province, or sorry, southwest part of the province. We're working on projects like antelope or pronghorn fencing. So it's something that a lot of people sort of down in southern Alberta may have heard about. It's led by volunteers with the Alberta Fish and Game Association, and we work with them as well. And they bring in volunteers from all over the place to try and make wildlife-friendly fencing for pronghorn to be able to go under without getting any damage to their backs from barbs, those kinds of things. We've worked on projects with the Alberta Trappers on wolverines and trying to get a sense of how many do we have in the province. Is there a need for any type of regulatory change? Of course, a lot of habitat work that we deal with local landowners throughout the province. So it's a huge number of different initiatives that are occurring across the province. And like I said, it's often 99% of the work we do, it's not just ACA, it's partnerships, and that's really what has made a lot of the initiatives very successful, is partnerships with a number of different groups and communities.
Right. I know my wife and I were just talking yesterday about the spot in the public land use zones that we like to go every summer, and it's great fishing. Can you talk a little bit, you mentioned community, so the reason I'm bringing that up is Coleman is a big part of that fishing down in southwestern Alberta. Can you talk a little bit about maybe the water sports, so to speak, as fishing is a sport, I suppose? Can you talk about that community involvement?
Well, I mean, from a fisheries point of view and dealing with sort of streams and lakes around, a lot of the work is being done by local watershed groups. And so we work a lot with the watershed groups, and then that directly involves the municipalities, communities, the stakeholders, the anglers, that sort of thing. And I mean, they're having a huge impact on, I mean, in a lot of cases, our issues are habitat, runoff issues, those kinds of things. So landscape level changes that we need to look at to try and improve water quality for the fish that we're concerned about. And to do that, you need the landowners buy-in. You need them to be on board to want to make some changes and help them out. And we've really seen a lot of that occurring on a lot of these what I would consider sort of vital streams to the recreation of angling.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Are there some other main challenges that Alberta is facing in preserving its natural resources?
Well, I think like just about everywhere else in the world, Alberta's main challenge is habitat loss and habitat degradation. And it's not from any one specific activity. It's everything from our expanding urban centers to agriculture to industry to it's just basically people's footprint on the land base. And we certainly have found that we've got a lot of people out there that, and particularly we work a lot with the ranching community, and a lot of those people are very interested in seeing, well, what can we change? What can we improve to try and help this out? And you see that in major urban centers as well, where, urban folks say, yeah, we are having an impact. What can we do different to try and improve things? So the big thing really is getting people on board with the idea that, yeah, we have to live here. And as a conservation group, we're not expecting people to stop living and stop enjoying, our outdoor activities, but how do we do it in a way that we can help out those resources that we're concerned about, that we're out there to hunt and fish. We don't want to be damaging while we're doing it. So what can we do to help to improve the habitat and ensure long-term sustainability of those populations?
Yeah, exactly. So we've talked kind of like the light side of your conservation efforts. Can you talk about how the poaching impacts conservation efforts in Alberta and maybe some measures that are being taken to address poaching?
Well, yeah, I mean, it can. I guess to be clear, Alberta Conservation Association, we run the promotion of the Report a Poacher program, but we're not directly involved in any type of enforcement activity. So I want to make sure people don't think we're enforcement officers or anything like that. But we promote it and make sure people are aware to call the hotline if anything comes up. Directly impact conservation efforts. I can't point to specifics where poaching is having a huge negative impact. Certainly, you see a grizzly bear being poached. Well, that's a threatened species that is being poached. That clearly is having a direct impact. But in a lot of cases, we're seeing deer and moose and things like that being poached. And from a strict conservation point of view, deer and moose populations rebound. What it more is, it's stealing from the rest of us, basically, the rest of us who want to enjoy those resources in a legal form. And at this point, I would say our enforcement officers are probably under-resourced, like every other enforcement group is in province and across Canada, for that matter. So we could certainly use more resources there. But they're doing a pretty good job of doing the best they can and doing a pretty good job of ensuring that prosecutions occur where they have enough information. And really, what helps is the general public getting involved. If you're seeing suspicious activities, and certainly I know anybody who's watching this in rural communities, they've dealt with all kinds of these sort of issues over the last little while. And it's the rural crime has increased along with poaching occurring in those rural areas as well. So it all comes down to, can we as the 99.9% of good citizens pull together and see if we can help stamp out things like poaching across the province.
Right. So I wanted to ask, in your opinion, what are the key opportunities for preserving Alberta's natural resources in the coming years?
Well, from our perspective, what we're trying to do is work directly with landowners, because the private land base is the area we can have the most direct impact on. Certainly, there are conservation issues on public lands for sure, but that's realistically outside of our purview. That's provincial government deals with public land. We deal a lot more with the private landowners. So, from our perspective, developing relationships with the ranching and farming community is huge, and I think our biologists have done a really good job. And one of the big things we've really tried to do is sort of change what I would say would be the traditional approach the biologists have taken when dealing with landowners. Traditionally, we've come out of school trained as biologists, knowing what has to be done, knowing this is the right thing to do, and then we go to a landowner and say, this is what you're doing wrong. And, as you might expect, that didn't go over all that well, right? Here we've got a rancher who's been on the land for who knows how many years, several generations, and here somebody, shows up and says, you're doing all this wrong. So we've tried really hard to make sure we've changed that approach and sit down with the ranching community and say, okay, how can we help? What can we do differently to help you out? And the reality is we've got over 600,000 acres of land now in southern Alberta that we are working with landowners on to improve habitat and help them improve their ranching operations as well. So we're trying to develop partnerships where if we did this, it would help you. Let's say if we developed an off-site watering system. So cattle need water in order to grow healthy. So if we got the cattle away from the stream, that would be good for the stream. And if we put the watering system up in this location, it would be good for the cattle as well. So there's a win-win. So we've been looking for those kinds of opportunities, and that's really where I think we've made some huge strides forward, not just on the conservation side, but in developing that mutual respect, basically. Now we show up at a rancher's front door, and they're not rolling their eyes right away. Well, here's someone else telling me what I'm doing wrong. Now they're looking at it as here's a partner that has shown me the respect that the land is here because I've been managing it properly at this point in time. Let's see how we can work together. So I think that's really our big win.
Absolutely. Well, Todd, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you. It's been great.
Well, more and more people are seeking alternatives to traditional medicine for their health challenges, and some of the more cutting-edge types of treatment include hyperbaric oxygen therapy and infrared light therapy. So joining us today are Brian and Cassandra Meyerhofer. They are the owners of the Oxygen House, which is located in Lethbridge and also in Raymond, Alberta. We welcome them now to Bridge City News. Brian and Cassandra, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. Thanks for joining me. I'm really interested in hearing all about this. So first of all, maybe give us a bit of an overview of what exactly you do at Oxygen House. What exactly is it, this oxygen therapy?
Well, we're a small health clinic, and we started out with hyperbaric oxygen, and we quickly added infrared lights. And then we began learning about the bioimmunity testing and hair mineral analysis testing. So we are qualified to do those tests as well, which help us understand your body chemistry and how you can change body chemistry and just increase your health. And we have natural food based supplements and minerals, really awesome minerals. And we use nutrition, minerals, and these alternative methods like hyperbarics to help people increase their health.
Okay, so you're called Oxygen House, but it's much more than just oxygen. Okay, so what exactly is this oxygen therapy? So it involves this hyperbaric oxygen chamber. So how does it work and what does it do exactly?
Yeah, so it's a chamber that you crawl into, and you breathe 95% oxygen through a nose piece, and then we increase the pressure to 1.3 atmospheres. Now, 1.3 atmospheres is like being 10 feet underwater. So you do have to pop your ears as you go along. What that increased pressure does is it allows the gas, oxygen, to dissolve into your blood and your blood plasma. Now, blood plasma can go in parts of your body that red blood cells can't fit. So it also goes into your other fluids as well, like cerebral spinal fluid and your other fluids as well. So it's flooding your body with oxygen, oxygen is like energy to your body. And then your body starts fixing up the place.
That's incredible. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. It sounds a little scary. You crawl into a chamber and it closes around. You've got a tube in your nose. It sounds very like futuristic, like when they would find the pods with the people. I don't know. Exactly. What does it feel like? Is it relaxing?
It's very relaxing.
Okay.
I sleep. A lot of people sleep, but you can read a book. You can be on your phone, but it's very. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not dark in there.
No.
And you can bring a light in there too. We have a portable light that goes inside, and it has big, large windows. People are claustrophobic. We sit right by the window, just make sure they're okay, and slowly increase the pressure, make sure they're equalizing their ears as we go along.
Yeah. So. Okay. Are you able to communicate with them while they're in there? Like, is there a speaker? Okay.
We communicate through the window. Yeah, you can hear us.
Okay.
Through the window.
Interesting. Yeah. How long is a session? Like, how long does it last?
Yeah, 1 hour.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 hours, but 1 hour is usually what we recommend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. What kind of benefits should a patient expect? Like, are there specific health conditions that oxygen treatments can help with?
So overall, we say oxygen is anti-inflammatory. It increases ATP, which is your cellular energy. It detoxifies. It mobilizes your stem cells, and it normalizes your immune system. So that is a general for everybody. This is what it does. But we have seen it's very good for people with brain problems, multiple concussions, autism, stroke, anything. We've also, there's a lot of studies that say it has had a benefit for people with everything from arthritis, sports injuries. We use it pre and post surgery for people. And we've had multiple people with cancer, all sorts of things come and utilize oxygen and seen benefit.
Okay. Are there any potential side effects or something that people should be aware of when using hyperbaric oxygen treatments?
Yeah. Well, we use a mild pressure chamber. It's not a high pressure chamber, so it's very safe. The only issue you can have is sometimes you get a slight detox effect. Because of the oxygen, your body starts detoxing because it has that added energy. And so maybe the first or second session, you won't feel super great. But with increased water intake, usually by the third or fourth, you're fine. And that's kind of on the rarer side. Usually a lot of people feel more energized. So good that way.
There are no reported side effects for mild pressure hyperbarics. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can all use more energy, that's for sure. And you two have been doing this for about 5 years. You've had your clinic, and you have kind of a personal story there, don't you, Cassandra?
I do. 6 years ago, I suffered a medication withdrawal, which I should have been weaned off of, but I was just pulled off of, and it just broke my brain. I was in my room, shaking. I didn't sleep for weeks, and I just thought I'm never going to be normal again. But somebody introduced me to hyperbarics at that time and said, I think you should go in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. And so I started going in, and it just totally made all the difference in the world for the healing of my own brain. So I'm a big believer in what it can do for you.
That's incredible. How many sessions did that take for you to start feeling better?
I went in at least 40 sessions.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Probably more than that. Yeah.
But it worked for you. So that's incredible. Now, you also do this infrared light therapy, right? So I've heard that this is another treatment you offer. So what types of lights are these, and how does it affect our body?
Yeah, well, it's a type 2 medical device. And what it does is it increases nitric oxide in your body. And what nitric oxide does a whole host of things. Incidentally, as we age, we produce less and less nitric oxide. So when you're 40, you produce half as much as you did when you're 20. When you're 60, half of that again.
Wow.
So, what it does is it actually dilates your blood vessels. And so there's more blood movement, more oxygen being carried to the tissues. It stimulates hormone release as well. Increases circulation, and it actually can also decrease swelling, and you can also use it for pain reduction. What it does is it actually mimics the medicine morphine, the drug morphine, without any of the side effects. So it can definitely have a pain relieving aspect as well.
So it works on the inside of your body and also topical on your skin too, right?
Yeah, so you can use it for skin, for body shaping. You can use it for liver detoxification, heavy metal detoxification. Yeah, it's a type 2 medical device, and it's also, you can purchase it and own it in your own home. So that gives you usage every day if you want to.
Okay, and there's studies out there that are showing positive results as well?
Yes, there's lots of studies that show for a variety of things, everything from skin issues to detoxification to wound healing.
Wow. Okay. What are some of the most common types of health conditions that clients come to you for treatments?
Honestly, we see a lot of people who have been to 2 or 3 doctors and maybe a specialist, and they know something's wrong with them, but they can't figure out what it is. All the blood tests come back normal, but they don't feel well, and they're saying something's wrong with me. And so then we start doing testing and using some of the modalities that we have to try to shift body chemistry and find out what are the roots of this problem. But we've also seen people with specific issues, car accident victims with brain injuries, Alzheimer's patients, cancer patients. And then we've seen people who just want to know more about their own body and how can I increase my own health? And, am I aging? What's happening in my body? And so they just want to know about better nutrition and really excellent supplements.
Okay, well, you mentioned supplements. I believe you guys sell different types of things, but also a big part of your health, and you mentioned this at the beginning, is you do a BIA, which is that bioimmunity analysis on patients. So what does that involve exactly, and what information does the analysis provide?
So it's a urine and saliva test that you can tell a lot about what's going on inside the body by what's coming out of the body. So we test your sugars, your salts, your pHs, your ureas, and then we can give you a metabolic efficiency. So how well is the body digesting food? We can give you an immune energy efficiency rating. How well is the body able to deal with stress? How well is the immunity? We give you a biological age. So how much aging is taking place in your body? And then we look at the various imbalances and say, what organs need relief or what's under stress? How can we shift this chemistry? And then we use nutrition and supplements to do that for you.
That's incredible. And then I understand you also do that hair mineral analysis. You mentioned that at the top there. So I believe this can reveal how the body is storing minerals and toxic metals and producing energy.
Yeah, so the hair mineral analysis is kind of a longer term picture about what's been going on in your body. It gives us an exact level of each mineral in your body and whether you're dealing with any toxic metals. It also gives us an adrenal and a thyroid and a blood sugar and an energy rating. And then we look at the ratios of minerals in your body because they're pretty important. The body is 75% water, 25% minerals. So these ratios, like zinc copper ratio, is for detoxification, and it should be 8 zinc to 1 copper. Well, if that is off, your body's not detoxing properly. So then we try to balance the ratios and the chemistry using the minerals that we have.
Wow. Speaking of minerals there, I believe that you're kind of a huge advocate of people not taking enough minerals. A lot of people take vitamins, but you're saying we should actually supplement that with minerals as well, right?
Well, it's the minerals that help us absorb the vitamins. And so if you don't have a good mineral base, you won't actually make use of the vitamins you're taking. And so we really like people to have a good mineral base. And I've really come to see that I think most diseases are actually a mineral imbalance in the body, either deficiencies or minerals in the wrong place, like calcification, right? Calcification in the brain can lead to Alzheimer's. Calcification in the joints can lead to arthritis. So we like to look at the mineral base of the body, and the more we can balance that, the more health there is.
Okay. And then, of course, we were talking about supplements. I know I take supplements. A lot of people do, but you believe that supplements that offer, the ones that you offer, I guess, are a little bit more superior. So what's the difference between yours and any other kind?
Well, the liquid minerals that we offer, they're angstrom sized. And that means that they can go directly into your cells. So you can absorb them sublingually. So they can bypass digestion. So most people have compromised digestion, and they maybe are getting 30%, maybe 40% of the minerals that they're taking in pill form. But these can go straight into your cells. And so you're getting 100% absorption. They're also water soluble, so they won't build up in your system and cause problems with metals. And they're also properly ionized. So they're actually sort of pulled into the cell.
Wonderful. And then, God, you guys do so much stuff here. So another type of treatment you do is called, let me see if I get this right, QRS Cell Vital. So what is that, and what is it helpful for?
Well, we have a QRS, and it's the same one they use on the space station. And they use it there so that they don't get osteoporosis and that they can have cellular energy in that environment. It's an electromagnetic resonance pad, and it basically speaks the same biological language as your cells. So it's a lot of cellular vitality. So I say that 8 minutes on the QRS is like 3 hours of walking or 1.5 hours of hard exercise.
What?
To your body in the same cellular energy rejuvenation. So people who can't exercise, this is a great thing. It can also help restore the parasympathetic nervous system. So for people who've been in fight or flight for a long time, it can help restore that parasympathetic so they can rest and digest. And it also helps restore people's sleep cycles. Because people have trouble with sleeping. And so again, it's a type 2 medical device, and you can own it and have it in your own home. So these are really, really good things that we think are great for people.
Instead of going to the gym, just hook yourself up to a machine, basically. And sit there and watch your favorite show on TV.
Exactly.
That's great. What does the QRS actually stand for?
Quantum resonance system.
Okay, well, that sounds very futuristic as well. You guys are great. We really appreciate having you on today. I've learned so much. Thank you.
Appreciate being here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Brian and Cassandra Meyerhofer are the owners of the Oxygen House, which is located in Lethbridge and also in Raymond, Alberta. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.